Hey there, everyone, and welcome back to another video. Today, we're going to be talking about Mars in Cancer. I've done quite a significant treatment here on YouTube of Mars in Cancer and how to work with what's classically considered astrology's worst planet. I'll pop a link in the description box below where you can access that video. According to the comments, a lot of people found that quite helpful. So we're going to be dealing with Mars in Cancer for an extensive period of time. I actually hoped to get the video that I'm doing now out prior to Mars's entrance into Cancer. But hey, what's the rush? We're going to be dealing with this energy for quite some time. So nothing like Mars conjunct one's sun to finally get it done. So we had Mars move into Cancer last week around the 4th of September. It's going to continue moving through Cancer, and then it will be early November, about the 4th, it will move into Leo. Standard procedure, but then Mars will start to really slow down. And from about December 4 or 5, Mars will station retrograde in the early degrees of 6 Leo. So we do get the Mars retrograde in the first 6 degrees of Leo, and then it will back into Cancer, retrograde back into Cancer in early January, approximately the 6th, 7th there. And it will be around February 24 when Mars will station direct at about 17 degrees of Cancer. So what we're looking at as far as Mars in the next little while is concerned is from 6 Leo back to 17 Cancer. So if you have planets or you have angles in your birth chart within those degrees, you're going to have Mars will retrograde over those parts of the sky. Now, in short, it's not going to be until we get to mid-June that we finally get Mars out of either the sign of Cancer or Leo. So rather than a 6 weeks, one and done, Mars moving through a sign, we have from September, so a week ago through to mid-June, where we have Mars just operating through 2 zodiac signs. So in this video, what I'm going to do is give you a bit of an idea of what it, because, the bulk of this retrograde is Cancer. And so what Mars in Cancer retrograde through the houses will look like. I also want to do another video for you, hopefully soon. And I also want to help you with Mars conjoining planets in the birth chart. So if this Mars cycle means, for example, Mars might conjoin your sun, Mars might conjoin your moon, and what that might look like. And this might be helpful too if you're trying to not only understand this energy for yourself, but also clients or making observations in the world. And aren't there plenty to make right now? So before I get into the nuts and bolts of this video, I want to let you know I'm pretty excited about it, which is a little bit why I've been AWOL here. And that is a mentorship program that I am starting 2nd of October is the first day. So if you're watching this from the US, the first day will be the 1st. So it's a 5-session weekly mentoring program where we will go through things such as setting up your business, overcoming there's blocks or challenges, imposter syndrome, whatever you want to call it. How to set up your website, how to utilize social media, email lists. And of course, in addition to some of the personal development, business structure stuff, we'll also do some advanced astrology as well, like how to condense all the information into a 1 hour or maybe a 1.5 hour session, and prioritizing layering all the techniques and doing all the things. So I've been requested to put something like this together for a long time now. I've finally done it. So I'll pop a link in the description below if you want to look it up and register for that. It's going to be a tight group, a very small one, because I really want to help people at a more individual level. A big part of this is also generated by you. Like, what do you need to know to either get started as an astrologer, practicing professionally, or maybe you've already been out there for a while, but you're not growing, or you need more clients or money or whatever the thing is. So we're going to be doing that as well. So I'm just going to share my screen quickly. So over on my website, which is my name, CassandraTyndall.com, on the homepage there's all the details. If you're struggling to get started and what to do, maybe you're over consuming content from other astrologers. This is a massive problem, and you really do want to avoid that if possible, because that's just going to make you it's going to promote a lack of confidence. We don't want that, particularly with Mars in Cancer. Obviously, extra help in forecasting or prediction work. If there's tricky configurations and you're struggling how to tell your client about this. And then, of course, the social media stuff, your website. And I really do want to help you with a little bit of that mindset magic. So this is great if you're in one of my programs for learning astrology. Maybe you're in somebody else's. That's totally okay as well. Maybe you're already out there but a bit stuck, or maybe you want to get started. So all the details are just there on that page, the price, the times, all the stuff, and the sign up button will take you to the app where I run the bulk of my things from. And you just set up that account and you're in, and then you will be able to post what you want help with. And so a big part of this program is going to be tailored to what the group requires. So hopefully you can join me there. I'm only taking 15 people and we're over half full now. So if you do want to get in, because I don't know when I will be doing it again. So thanks for that little minute or two to let you know about that. Alrighty, let's get into Mars in Cancer. Before I get started, I'd love to hear, how are you experiencing this so far? Because what was really interesting about Mars's ingress into Cancer, it coincided with Pluto's regress or retrograde back into Capricorn. So we had this double whammy energy across the Capricorn Cancer houses of our birth chart. So Pluto in Capricorn sort of opened up this, oh God, this old chestnut. Are we really going there again? Are we really doing this again? Do I have to experience this again? Do I have to feel this again? Or whatever that means for you in terms of your chart and your Pluto in Capricorn story. And then, of course, just that aggravation from Mars. Mars in Cancer is aggressive, but it's emotionally aggressive, I should say. It can be passive aggressive too. Now, those are really low hanging bad things to say about Mars in Cancer. But of course, if you go back to that video, I think I did that about 2 years ago when Mars was last in Cancer. That will really help you break down what detriment means and how to work with planets that find themselves in that condition. There's a lot to say about that, but the main thing when we're thinking about Mars in Cancer is, okay, every planet is going to planet. So Mars is always going to Mars. It's all it knows how to do. And Mars is really responsible for things of strife and struggle and division and effort and chutzpah and motivation and desire. And that desire and that motivation and the struggle and the strife can be really, really positive. But sometimes when we find that it's in Cancer, it can kind of be emotionally driven. And so emotional responses can be problematic. I experienced I can't talk about it because it's a police issue at this point, but we did have an episode in in my life where someone emotional response or reactions resulted into a violent outburst. So Can't talk about that, obviously, but we had a very textbook example of that. So when Mars is in Cancer, there is that sense of uh, acting towards feelings or acting because of feelings. And there's nothing essentially wrong with that, but it can be a struggle. It can be difficult for Mars because traditionally Mars is about warfare and blood and metal and, all of the kind of blood and guts of life. Whereas Cancer, it's ruled by the moon. It's very motherly or family orientated. It's very soft and protective. And so, everything that we hold dear, everything that we cherish and that we nurture and want to keep safe, we usually want to keep away from those Mars influences. But sometimes, me with, I have my son early Cancer. And in this instance, I literally had to go into battle for my child. So it was a very Mars in Cancer situation because Cancer will talk about safety and places of protection and growth and generation. So this is where Mars in Cancer can work really well in the defense and the protection. If you don't hold something dear, you have no desire to protect it. And so that's when sometimes the most impassioned and the most powerful responses can occur. Because if you're kind of apathetic to whatever you're defending or protecting, well, your defense and protection is probably not going to be particularly potent. So, with a few of those hallmark areas sort of highlighted, we'll go through the houses. Mars in Cancer, we've got this aggressive, strife-ridden planet in the area or of the signs to do with home and family. So situations with domestics, whether it's violence, whether it's division, whether it is arguing, having a difference of opinion or a difference of what you think is important. Emotional issues can really be stirred up, whether those are current, past, or present. Or current, past, or present, saying the same thing there. So, emotional division. I mean, that's being played at many different levels, but it is also important to not feel to not react to the division that's intentionally being put out there as well. People are allowed to vote differently to you. Oh God. Anyway, we won't go there. Anywho, let's get into the houses, shall we? As I said, go back to that Mars in Cancer video. It's going to give you a good juicy look at what that looks like. Because Mars is going to feel conflicted. Mars is going to, that struggle within, great Metallica song, that struggle within around our feelings, around our emotions. This could be to do with the area of our birth charts ruled by Cancer. This could be about other issues that, that are playing out in a variety of ways and places. So when we're having that internal struggle or conflicting feelings or that tension within, we might also find that our loyalties change. Cancer is that ultimate mother energy, what we're going to defend and protect. What do we hold dear? We might find those change over the next several months as Mars moves through Cancer. It retrogrades back through from 29 to 17 Cancer. Do we still feel the way that we used to feel around a particular area or topic? Are we still willing to go into battle for said thing? Or are we going to cut and sever ties from said thing? So there's a lot of potentialities that can play out over the next several months. And for some of us, we might come out of this Mars in Cancer cycle realizing that we feel very emboldened and very passionate about something that maybe you didn't so much before. So anyway, let us get solar fire up and we'll start making our way through the houses So, yep, that's good to go. So I'm just going to share the screen now so we can see this together. Hopefully that is up where it is. So Mars in Cancer. Alrighty, so let's start with Cancer. If you are a Cancer or you have Cancer rising, this is going to be Mars moving through predominantly your first house and slightly into the second through the retrograde phase. I'm a Gemini rising, so I've just had Mars move through my first house, and it's one of my favorite cycles every 2 years, because this can be a really great time for you to set new goals, not just for the time Mars is in Cancer, but for the next 2 years. Because Mars only moves through Cancer or through each sign, usually every 2 years. So it's not just about what you want now. It's not just about what you might want for this particular Mars in Cancer cycle, but it can be until Mars comes back into Cancer again in a couple of years. So your motivation, your mojo is probably going to be higher than normal, at least in the first part of Mars in Cancer. Of course, when it retrogrades, that can be where you really feel the fluctuations. Having a Cancer rising anyway, it's going to depend on some factors, particularly where the moon is for you, but fluctuating energy, fluctuating desire, fluctuating passions, energy levels is going to be sort of normal for you. When Mars moves here, perhaps this is going to be a good time for you to carve up or cut away more time to be healthily selfish. So this might mean a passion project. This might mean time for you to do what it is you need or want to do. Fitness, health, energy, whether you like running, whether you like swimming, whether you're like me and like picking up heavy things, this is going to be a really good time to do that sort of stuff. Maybe you need to um, uh, carve out the new you, healthier habits, healthier attitudes. You might be more in touch with what's just not working for you. So you might find yourself with Mars there feeling more decisive than usual. You might feel more inclined to say, no, this is what I want, what I need, and what I'm going to do. So when Mars comes into a house, it's bringing a gift. Okay, via transit, Mars comes bearing gifts, and those are gifts of steel, basically, sharp and hot objects. So those sharp and hot objects, by definition, are sort of divisive and separative in their quality. So when that comes into your first house, you might need to separate yourself from something or someone so you can achieve something for yourself. So this might be less time. Like, look to where your moon is. This might be less time with children. It could be less time with a partner. It could be less time working or with family, whatever the case may be. So it is a little bit of an invitation here to start putting the like fueling your own fire or fanning your own flames. And one of the best ways I can describe that is by utilizing some healthy selfishness. So think about what you want to achieve, and what you're prepared to work for and towards. More often than not, you have to do it alone, whether it is a health journey, a fitness journey, whether it is something you want to achieve, something you want to learn, something you want to do, whatever that personal goal is, you kind of got to get out there and do it yourself. Like, no one's holding your hand. It is really embracing your come at me, bro, attitude on everything that is important to you. So it's a really overall empowering time to be a Cancer or Cancer rising. And of course, with Pluto in the seventh, this old chestnut in terms of the relationship sphere, you might be able to take on some of those Pluto challenges with more empowerment or more decisiveness than what you were in previous iterations of Pluto there. So that's something to think about as well. So let's skip over now to, we'll just continue going through in the order of signs, I guess. Leo. Now, part of this retrograde is going to involve you, but for the most part, Mars is going to be in your 12th house. So when I think about Mars, the planet of struggle and strife and problems, the 12th house, we're talking about problems you can't see. So that's usually problems of the mind. It's problems, whether it's mental stress, mental anguish, maybe some fears or fantasies as well. That's going to get really stirred up. So chances are with the moon ruling your 12th house, this is going to be stuff that's emotional of nature and extremely sensitive. So this could be from stem from a family, childhood, anything that's sort of emotionally difficult from then may get stirred up again. Mars will indicate that there's something that needs to be cut open and examined, and that might be those problems that you would normally avoid, whether those are problems of addiction, whether those are mental health issues. And, obviously mental health is on a whole scale of there, but just those kind of problems that will set you off will need to be tackled, dealt with, and sort of faced. And it's not going to be easy to sort of open up the recesses of our being and take a good look at that. So it is going to be watery, it's going to be emotional, but a lot of healing there. Sometimes it's cutting, if it's a skin cancer, for example, cutting that out is really, really important. You don't want to ignore that. So there might be something from more of an emotional standpoint that you just have to decide, I need to cut this out. It's not serving me. It's not doing me any favors. And in fact, it's probably keeping me stuck in that loop. Cancer does have that quality to be really, what's the word? It's on the tip of my tongue. It just remunerates all the time, goes in a loop. So whatever it is taking up rent-free space in your mind, sever it, cut it, be gone. And I think that's probably the best way to deal with this cycle if you do happen to have Leo rising in particular. So yeah, let's move on there. So we're going to move on to Virgo and Virgo rising. This is interesting with having Mars in the house of Jupiter. So Jupiter finds joy here. And this is where we find benefits and blessings, friendships, opportunities, our groups, our communities, those who fan our flames. I would also go as far to say that in the modern age, this might be where we also find out people on social media, like audiences, for example. If you have a big Instagram following or what have you, or YouTube, whatever. So I like to see the 11th house as where the road rises up to meet you. And for the next several months, we've got Mars rising up to meet us there. And this could potentially be problematic. This could be realizing that you need to cut or cull, obviously cutting, not literally, but cut away, cull some friendships that are maybe a little difficult or maybe aren't just aligned with you in whichever way that means for you. You might find there be some battles with friends. It may also be your friends who are undergoing the battle. So it may not even be about you. It may actually be about your friends. At the same time, you might be motivated to find new groups. So if you've got a friend that's having a hard time You can still be there for them, of course, in that Cancerian way, you know, tea and sympathy and what have you. But if they're less available, you might have to have that motivation to go and find new friends or find new groups or new people to hang out with. Mars retrograde cycle may also show you who your frenemies are, who may not necessarily have your best interests at heart, is also very possible too. You may even experience friends come back, you know, friends that you might have had a fallout with, or friends that you just haven't seen for a really long time and sort of fell off the face of the earth, may come back into the fold. But do keep in mind, you know, this cycle might speak more to what your friends experience as opposed to what they do, or what you do rather. So when we are looking at Libra, we're really focusing on career, life direction stuff, and what you're known for. So I like to really make that distinction because, for example, I have plenty of clients and students who work in government. That's just what they do to get paid. But what they're known for is maybe being a psychic, a tarot reader, some kind of magician, or what have you. I know plenty of people, no doubt they're watching. So hello. um, uh, yeah, so you know that's the government stuff's just what they do to get paid, but what they're known for is what they really see as their profession, their career, or their calling. Mars comes into the 10th house for everyone, you know, approximately every 2 years. So this is your time to sort of make some waves, particularly with Cancer being a water sign. This cycle can also help you if there are emotional barriers or blocks to success. You know, Libra rising, for the most part, Libra likes to play nice. Libra likes to make sure everyone's taken care of. But Cancer sometimes, you know, can be a little bit more tenacious than it lets on, and very much, you know, that I get this image, particularly with Mars in the 10th, of Artemis, the um, one of the moon goddesses who goes out there and chases the lamb and slaughters the lamb and takes it back to the fold. So this is going to be a cycle about chasing what you need professionally, or chasing what you need in terms of maybe public recognition or reputation. Maybe you have to be a bit more forceful or visible in some way. It may also take a lot of time to generate this progress. You know, Mars in Cancer is not a straight line. Mars in Cancer is, you know, those memes where they talk about you think success is like that, but it's actually sort of very, it's not linear at all. So it's going to take some time to generate the progress. So it is important to not get emotional or rage quit if things don't turn out the way that you want. Um, Mars is a malefic at the end of the day. And so there's still a word of caution when it comes to reputation in particular, maybe who you align yourself with, maybe what you say or what you do publicly as well. So we could be looking at topics involving gossip or slander or backstabbing, particularly if the political environment in the workplace is not ideal. Sometimes, though, if you're self-employed or you have a reputation for being something else, sometimes a little bit of that malevolence. I'll use that term loosely, but you know what they say about even bad publicity is good publicity. Mars in the 10th can bring that. So you might be a little bit of a controversial Twitter post or something along those lines. Okay. Or maybe it's about getting a little bit salty with what you have to share in the world. Alrighty, so if you're a Scorpio, this is your ascendant ruler moving into the ninth house for an exceptionally long time. So Mars is going to be in the ninth, and then it's going to spend a bit of this retrograde in the 10th as well. So there is that professional public link there. The ninth house, as I said, Mars is a planet that brings trouble, strife, problems. But in the ninth house, we've got good problems there, like problems that are kind of fun to solve. Where am I going to go on holiday? Where might I like to travel to? Do I need to update my bucket list? Do I need to lose my religion, from an REM perspective? Or do I need to reinvest into religion or spirituality or something like that? Meaning and purpose is very much a ninth house area. Mars in Cancer is going to really help you sharpen the sword on life philosophies, what your world outlook is. Do you still see the world in the way that you once did? Do you need to update some of your intentions or perspectives? So from a practical standpoint, this could be a really great transit if you've been thinking about, maybe I need to go back and finish that degree or finish that course. Start that astrology course. The ninth house is also where we would find astrology. Maybe you want to publish something, get that book finally out there into the world, updating your bucket list. I think I might have said that. You also might decide with Mars there, it might be that inner wrangling, that's something you've been working a long time for. So say, for example, if you've been going through university and thinking, maybe I don't really want to do this anymore, or maybe the direction that universities are going with are no longer aligned with me, or maybe there's a better way to learn what I need to learn, or an alternative way. The ninth is also where we're going to find stuff to do with politics and legality. So, that could be something that some Scorpio risings might be dealing with Mars in Cancer. Now, if you are a Sagittarius, this is fears, phobias, and finances when we're dealing with the eighth house. Mars retrograde through the eighth would be, to my mind, especially in Cancer for Sag risings, it's a real divorce signature. And of course, this doesn't mean that all Sag risings are going to get divorced, but it feels like the breakup of family, or the division of family, the division of finances, or struggle and strife around differing desires around maybe family, finances, or those emotional entanglements we share with other people. So Mars comes through here. If you keep in mind that the eighth house can symbolize joint finances, whether that is in marriage or relationship, business, tax, loans, debts. So while there might be some struggle or strife, say, for example, you might, call it quits in a relationship. And then what does that look like from the practical dividing of stuff, practical dividing of maybe family or parental obligations? But it could also be a really great time to get on top of debt if that's something you want to do, and pay off that pesky credit card that keeps on eating away at your life. Maybe if there's a little tax situation, you decide, right, I'm going to set up a payment plan with whichever country is required. You might find that you're more willing or motivated to invest, to grow wealth. It could also be a time where you might even take the plunge into obtaining a loan to make a significant purchase, whatever that might be. It could also be a period of time where therapy may be required. Mars in tender Cancer in one of the eighth houses, where the eighth houses is one of those Pandora's box. When we talk about the eighth house with inheritances, it's not just the kind of inheritances that we may get through family money or homes or physical possessions. It can also be the inheritances that we never wanted, that we might have a certain tendency or trait that we've inherited from a parent or what have you. We decide that we just need to deal with that. So it could be opening up that the family stuff and taking a good look at it, and then, quarterizing it with Mars, sealing it up, and then, healing through that. So there's quite a number of ways that that can work for a Sag, but I don't feel that this is going to be the most comfortable of cycles for you. But I think, that classic, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. But you'll be better off for facing it rather than not. I think it's also too with Pluto back in the second, there's a real themes of empowerment and maybe having to accept that when it comes to either finances, your emotions, the accounts we share with other people. So what you've deposited versus what you've withdrawn, and all of those kind of emotional, financial, sexual entanglements we share with others, even though I don't technically see that as an eighth house topic, but it is kind of there. Yeah, that's going to be a cycle of re-empowerment for you, I think, for Sag rising. Now, for Cap, it's funny, I was just having a little bit of a procrastinate before doing this video. And interestingly, Dave Grohl, I just saw the headline. I haven't looked at the article yet, but he has fathered a child outside of his marriage. I don't know if this was during his marriage. Maybe he had a child before he got married, but he never said anything. Or he's been a naughty boy. I don't know. But anyway, very interesting because he is a Capricorn rising. He has Pluto now back in his first house. He has to deal with some real heavy stuff thanks to Mars stirring things up in his house of marriage. So very, very tender cycle for him. So I thought that was just an interesting example just before I sort of press record and got this one happening, but I'll have to look into that. Feel free to add your tidbits in the comments if you want. Okay, so but for most Capricorn risings, of course, this is going to be a very intense relationship cycle. Does he love me? Does he not? Those types of questions. And that's if it's a new situation. Maybe if you're in a longer term situation, Mars in Cancer is going to beg the question, are we going to make it through? It is going to be a little bit of a rocky patch. This is going to be about defining what you desire, what you need, what you want. And do you still want what you once did? Because desires do change, motivations do change. And particularly when we're dealing with Cancer, those fluctuations are kind of a given. So defining what the desires are. And, as a Capricorn rising, you've been through the ringer and now you're back in there. And so, naturally, the knock-on effect of that is going to be a little bit of difficulty in the relationship. If you're having to face old things, well, the ricochet effect of that is going to be with other people. On the upside, Mars in Cancer can really bring some passion, some sparks, some energy. That may come through, a little bit of fighting or lovers' quarrels or what have you. But sometimes that is, what are you prepared to fight for in a relationship? Real life isn't Hollywood. It's the struggle and the strife, very Mars stuff, is what really forges a relationship in the fire. Everyone wants to, be with you when the times are good, but what does it look like when they're hard? You're going through a little bit of hard now, chances are, with Pluto back. And this is a defining moment. Who's really on, Team Capricorn rising and who isn't? So if you're not in a relationship, this can be ideal for you to really be proactive. Maybe you need to get out there on the market, whatever that means, whether it's online, whether that is actively going to places where you might find someone who's worth exploring. Whether, that can be a variety of places. But Mars retrograding through your seventh, I think the classic X situation is definitely a potentiality there. Uh, Quite a few years ago now, I shared a meme or a little kind of thing. I think it's from that account called Word Porn, and it said something along the lines of uh, like an ex coming back is like a relit cigarette. They never taste the same. And that's my take on exes. It's also my take on Mars retrograde. It's rare that taking back an ex is quite the same. So put that in your pipe and smoke it, whatever that one means for you. Okay, Aquarius. All right, so it's Mars is in the house of joy here. So Mars loves the struggle, it loves the strife. And here, Mars has a job to do. So it's not the worst transit in the world, but you're probably going to see that the next little while. So, what's really interesting with Aquarius is that you've got a bit of a reprieve with Pluto, but it may not feel like it because Mars sets a punishing pace. So you might have a little bit of a reprieve from the intensity, but it's replaced with a lot of busyness. So troubleshooting, the to-do list, um, double time, overtime, just a lot of activity. The question is, particularly with the retrograde, is the activity and the struggle worth it? Is it getting me somewhere? Or is it just activity for activity's sake? Remember, there's a big difference between activity and achievement, busyness and actually getting something done. So, this can be a really good time for you to fine tune that. Are you just reacting to problems that need to be fixed, or are you actually solving problems? It's a bit different from a qualitative standpoint. I'd also think that the health and wellness, sickness stuff may come out, particularly if there's emotional stress. Now, yes, Aquarius is an air sign, so they're very much in the head, but the moon is very much in the gut and in the belly. So, um, taking care of your digestion is going to be really important here if there's emotional stress. Um, so you might find that there's a little bit of an acute flare up of something, whether it's digestive or whatever your natural predispositions are. And from the sixth house being an area of busyness, are your efforts frivolous? So I think this is a little bit I forget who said it, maybe Abraham Lincoln. Give me 4 hours to chop down a tree, I'll spend three sharpening the axe. And that's going to be very important when Mars is just kind of going berserko in the sixth house. You really want to be making sure that you're not using a blunt sword to move through life. You really do want to have that focus, and that's going to be difficult with Mars retrograde in Cancer. So you may have to realize too, there'll be periods where you need to cut yourself some of that slack. Alrighty, next, Pisces. Not bad. I don't mind Mars in the fifth, actually. If you think about what Mars, one of the classic signals for for the fifth house is sex. Put Mars there. I mean, that's not a hard stretch to make. So it can really turn up the dial a little bit for those Venusian pleasures, whatever those are for you. So there could be fun, flirting, recreational activities, uh, going out, whatever it is that you like to do when the jobs are done and the bills are paid, that's your fifth house. So Mars here is going to really bring some energy and mojo into that. It's going to be such a great cycle for you to rediscover a passion. That could be involve a certain person. Maybe it involves a certain hobby or thing that you like to do. So maybe it's baking, or maybe it is music, whatever it might be. A whole bunch of possibilities there. Children could be a factor here. So whether you do have children or you don't, Mars retrograde might be, how do I really feel about that? Maybe you always wanted to be a parent and now you're thinking, I don't know if I do. Maybe you already have children and you're thinking, do I need another one? Or maybe not. Um, or maybe younger people in general become more of a focus in life while Mars is taking this extended tour of Cancer. So that could be other people's children, not just your own. You may also see that if you do have a child or there's younger people in your life, that they may go through a little period of tension or struggle or even injuries. Those childhood injuries are also a potentiality, or maybe they just have a time where they are more emotionally needy, depending on their age and life cycles, of course, and where they are at in their stages of development. Because I mean, even grown-ups probably do that too if you've got older children. So whatever your heart's desire is around joy, creativity, sex, children, what you like to do when the bills are paid and the jobs are done, this is going to be your time to really carve out time for that. Discover it is. What is your passion? What is your desire? You ask a 10-year-old what they like to do for fun, and they're, okay, that's enough. I've kind of got that. I know what you like to do. But you ask a 30-year-old, 40-year-old, 50-year-old what they like to do for fun, and we kind of got to think about that. It doesn't come naturally to us when we get a little bit older. But Mars is going to help you fine tune that throughout this lengthy cycle. Now, Aries. So we've just got Aries and Taurus to go. So this is angular. So it's going to be a notable cycle for you. Mars is your ascendant ruler if you've got Aries rising. So of course, this is going to be a big domestic cycle. Your living situation, your family relationships, whether those are, family relationships or your living situationships. So whether you've got flatmates, housemates, maybe you are, what do you call it? You have tenants, like you have a rental property, you've got tenants. Maybe you are the renter and you decide to move during this cycle. Maybe you buy and sell in this cycle. So we can see that there's probably some movement, energy, and change coming through in the fourth house of family. There's going to be a little bit of instability, and that instability is probably going to be a little bit more emotional of nature, um, as well as, or physical. So whether you actually move home or whether it's changing desires around the home and family situation. So you might have quick tempers, short tempers, dealing with a lot of emotional landmines within the home or within the extended family circle. Now, this is something that I don't really like to have to say, but we're astrologers, we're reading symbols, and so a caveat I'd have to put here is violence. Whether there's more arguments or fighting at home, or God forbid, physical violence in the home. Um, Mars also rules thieves. So if you've got Aries rising, this might be a time where you think, oh, might just have to update the security in my home, make sure the doors are locked, or get that camera system I've been thinking about for a while, or start a little neighborhood watch thing. Whatever it is that's ideal for you in order to make your home feel a little bit more secure. So yeah, there's going to be a little bit of turbulence on the home front. But this can help you iron out what your ideal domestic life looks like. And sometimes we do have to go through these periods of a little bit of tension and turmoil to figure out what that really looks like for you. Now, our last sign is Taurus. So Taurus is usually not so last, but we are this time. Now, neighbors, neighborhoods, siblings, cousins. um, cars, transportation, short distance traveling. So as Mars moves through this period of time, this part of your chart, you might find this period of time really does relate to just what's happening in your local environment. You go up to grab a carton of milk or something like that, and you get a flat tire, or you bump into someone you know and it chews up a lot of your time, or uh, there might be construction or things happening in the neighborhood that just feels busy, just feels a little bit tension. There's a little bit more tension there. Um, what I love about the third house, it doesn't really get spoken of too much, is that as a Taurus rising, you have the moon ruling that part of the sky. So the ruler of the third house is the moon, and the moon finds her joy there. Now, Mars comes through and it's going to aggravate and irritate that. So, this is a really good time for you to double down on some of what I would call, well, not I would call, but that are called, um, wellness rituals or rituals of meaning and purpose. Sometimes the third house is a little bit related to the idea of your daily round. You go, the things that you do kind of regularly on the daily. Now, if you've got a bit stuck or stagnant, or you need to change that up, what's the difference between a routine and a ritual? Well, the routine is robotic, the ritual is meaningful. So Mars might help you return to some of those rituals or those routines and bring them back meaning. If you do have some kind of spiritual practices, prayers, planetary prayers, prayers to various deities, God, gods, whomever, we can get a bit robotic around it. So, as astrologers, it's Jupiter day, Jupiter hour, better go do my thing. But have you lost that meaning? Have you lost that spirit behind what you're doing? It could even just be simple as the cooking dinner every night. This is Cancer. It's going to have a little bit of a domestic flavor to it. Yes, we have to have dinner every night. It's kind of boring, but why not put a candle, add a little, something, something, just to make it a little bit more meaningful? Because sometimes in life we spend so much of our time and our energy thinking about the big things, the big hits and the big wins, but it's the little things that kind of add up and they overflow. It's like compounded interest. So you really want to be thinking about the compounding interest of your life. Some people might call that moving the needle. So it's like doing a little something every single day that just helps to bring that sense of meaning back into your life and purpose as well. I'd also suggest that this could be a good time for learning, uh, discovery, not in terms of the ninth house and university stuff, but this could be a really good time for short courses, weekend workshops, webinars, things of that nature, catching up on your reading list, those sorts of things. From a constructive standpoint, if I was a Taurus rising, this would be a really good time to cull and cultivate your social media. So if there's a whole bunch of followers or friends and you're like, get rid of them. Or if you're wanting to sort of fine tune your social media presence to reflect wherever you're at, you've just had massive Uranus in your first house, you're different now. So maybe there might be a need to sort of intentionally work with social media. Now, because the third house, sort of ninth house, tends to rule that stuff. Um, Also be cautious in your daily routines. You don't want to injure yourself, Mars, while you're going about just those kind of regular robotic routines. So I think for Taurus rising, intentionality is going to be really important, and finding a little bit of magic back in the mundane. Okay, so Gemini risings. Well, this is going to be Got to be choose my words carefully here, given that I have Gemini rising. But generally, when Mars comes into the second house, what's going to happen is that Mars is going to get a little bit funny, money is going to get a little bit funny, particularly through the retrograde. The second house primarily is about cash and confidence. And those two things are very much intertwined. If you speak to anyone who is successful from a materialistic perspective, generally they're really confident in what they have to do, what they have to offer, and what that value is. So, having the moon ruling the second house, generally speaking, Gemini risings are kind of used to having fluctuations with money or money coming in and money coming out. With the rise and the fall of the moon, there can be the rising and falling of financial tides, tides of confidence. When Mars comes into this space, there is an invitation to really perhaps dissect your attitudes around money, your attitudes around motivation and mojo around confidence. Can you tend to be maybe a little bit apathetic, easy come, easy go? This is going to depend so much, of course, on other factors to do with the second house. This might be in terms of the moon sign, the lunar phase. That is going to tell us a lot about each individual in respect to money, because no one really likes to hear this sort of stuff, that money's going to be a little bit itchy scratchy for a period of time. But this may be a really good time for you to really work toward a financial goal, figure out the parts that are working, figure out the parts that are not. With the second house, there's also just the general idea of abundance. So abundance doesn't always have to mean money. It can also mean your access to opportunities, your access to support, especially. So this might be a time where you're taking a look around and saying to yourself, uh, the networks and the systems I have in place, do those people support me? So this could be stuff to do with money, like maybe an accountant, maybe a lawyer, maybe it is partnerships. If you are involved with somebody in a financial setting, are they supporting you or not? So Mars is going to really help you define what that is. I think the initial process of Mars in Cancer is going to be fine. You might be right. I'm going to, sell that stuff in the garage that I've been trying to get rid of. I'm going to put it on Facebook Marketplace. I'm going to maybe look for a higher paying job. I'm going to update my skills in a way that can generate more income. If you're self-employed, you might actively do more promotions. You might put more products or services out there into the marketplace. If you're employed, you might want to ask your boss for a raise, okay? But you might use this particular Mars in Cancer to really sort of earn your keep, so to speak. And the Mars retrograde phase may be the period of time where you're negotiating what the new terms or conditions or salary might be. And then by the time Mars is direct again, you might be able to get the fruits of your labor in that respect. I often think about the idea of Mars in Cancer in the second house is, how do you go and hunt for what you need? How do you go out there and get it? And Mars in Cancer can be, do I feel like it? Or am I motivated? Can I really do it? When Mars returns to Cancer and spends a long time there, this is really your time to really fine tune your hunger, fine tune your desire for abundance in general. So this may be cash, of course, but it can be a whole multitude of other things. And desire is a really interesting concept because desire can bring up all this emotional stuff. So there may be something for Gemini rising about really peeling back the layers of desire and letting the desire inform the action. I could go on a whole tangent about that, but when we can get really clear about our desire and why we want it, why is a really big thing, not just the how, but the why, then we can just follow through with Mars. Once those fuels and fires have been energized and stoked, then it's just simply execution. So your attitudes, your energy around attraction and calling in what you need is going to be on fire during this particular cycle. Alrighty, so that's basically the houses in a wrap. Now, or in a nutshell, maybe I should say. My next video, I think I mentioned this already. I would love to do for you the Mars conjoining all the planets, so you can get an idea as Mars moves. If you've got a planet in Cancer, what that's going to feel like, what that's going to look like. So, yeah, if you're keen on that mentorship program, the link will be below. Of course, the Golden Circle is always available to get all my really juicy insights on the astrology each and every month. And as of October, my books will be open again for readings too. So if you want a personal dive into Mars in Cancer or anything else that's happening in the sky, you'll find it all over on my website. Alrighty, over and out for now. And I'd love in the comments for you to share with me what's happening for you with Mars in Cancer so far.